The ring on Sonia's finger weighs nothing, but it feels like a chain wrapped around her entire body, pulling her down into something dark and unknown. She stares at it through the pounding headache that's trying to split her skull in half, through the nausea rolling in waves through her stomach, through the confusion that makes her thoughts feel like they're moving through thick mud. Platinum, simple, elegant, expensive looking in that understated way that probably means it cost more than her monthly rent. Very much a wedding ring. She doesn't own a wedding ring, has never owned a wedding ring. Wasn't planning on owning one anytime soon, especially not after yesterday. Her hand shakes as she lifts it closer to her face, squinting against the light that's stabbing through her eyeballs straight into her brain. The metal catches the morning sun streaming through massive floor-to-ceiling windows she's never seen before in her life. Windows that overlook a view she definitely can't afford. Windows in a room she has absolutely no memory of entering. No. The word comes out as a whisper, rough and raw like she's been screaming. Maybe she was screaming. She doesn't remember. No, 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 no. She sits up too fast and immediately regrets every decision that led to this moment. The room spins violently. Her stomach lurches. For a second, she thinks she might throw up all over what are clearly very expensive silk sheets. Silk sheets. Actual silk sheets that slide against her skin like water. Like luxury she's never experienced. Like a life that doesn't belong to her. The bed is enormous. King-sized at minimum. Maybe bigger. The kind of bed you see in hotel suites that cost $1,000 a night. The kind normal people like her never sleep in. This isn't her apartment. Her apartment in Gangnam has IKEA furniture she assembled herself with instructions in Korean she could barely read. Has a window that overlooks a parking lot where teenagers skateboard at night. Has a radiator that clanks and hisses like it's possessed. Has walls thin enough that she can hear her neighbor's television through them. This place looks like it belongs in a magazine. Like it was designed by someone whose job title is Luxury Interior Architect. Marble floors that probably cost more per square foot than she makes in a month. Artwork on the walls that she instinctively knows is real. Not prints. Actual original pieces worth more than her car. And that view. God, that view. The Han River stretching out below like a silver ribbon through Seoul's skyline. The morning sun turning the water into liquid gold. Her stomach drops so fast she feels it in her toes. Where the hell is she? Whose apartment is this? What happened last night? She looks down at herself with growing dread. White oversized button-down shirt. Definitely men's. Definitely not hers. The fabric is soft, expensive, probably costs more than her entire outfit from yesterday. Her dress from last night is folded perfectly on a chair across the room like someone took care with it. Her heels are lined up by the door with military precision. Someone undressed her. Someone put her in this shirt. Someone put her in this bed. Panic starts crawling up her throat like an animal trying to escape. On the nightstand next to the bed, right next to where someone has placed a glass of water and what looks like aspirin, there's a piece of paper. Official looking. Red stamps everywhere. Korean characters she can barely make out mixed with English words that make her blood run cold. Marriage certificate. Her name is right there in black ink, Sonia Adeyemi. Next to another name in Korean characters and English, Jang Uk. The date is from last night. The timestamp says 2:47 a.m. At the bottom, her signature. Loopy and drunk-looking and slightly smudged but unmistakably, undeniably hers. This is a joke. She grabs the paper with both hands, her fingers leaving wrinkles in the official document. This has to be a joke. This is someone's idea of a prank. This can't be real. This can't be real. But the paper feels real, feels official. The stamps look genuine. The signatures are witnessed by what looks like a government official. There's an official seal embossed into the paper that she can feel under her fingertips. The bedroom door opens without a knock, without warning. Sonia's head snaps up so fast her neck cracks. A man walks in carrying 2 cups of coffee. Tall, at least 6 feet, maybe 6'2". Broad shoulders that fill out his white button-down shirt in a way that suggests he works out regularly, seriously, with intention. The sleeves are rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms covered in intricate black tattoos that snake up toward his biceps. Dragons, maybe, or something more abstract. She can't tell from here, and she's too panicked to focus. His hair is dark, almost black, styled back from his face in a way that probably takes effort to look that effortless. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, thin and white and old. He's handsome in that dangerous way that makes smart women cross the street at night. The kind of handsome that comes with warning labels. He looks at her and his mouth curves into something that might be a smile if it wasn't so calculating, so controlled, so completely aware of the power dynamic in this room. "Good morning, wife." His voice is deep, smooth, every syllable perfectly controlled, like he's used to being listened to, being obeyed, getting exactly what he wants. There's just a hint of an accent underneath the perfect English, something that makes her think he learned the language later in life but mastered it completely. Sonia's mouth opens, closes, opens again. Her brain is screaming at her. Run, say something, do literally anything except sit here frozen like a complete idiot. But no sound comes out. Her vocal cords have apparently gone on strike. He walks closer and sets one of the coffee cups on the nightstand next to the marriage certificate. His movements are controlled, measured, deliberate. Like every action is calculated. Like he's never been uncertain about anything in his entire life. "You'll need this," he says, gesturing to the coffee with one elegant hand. Hangovers are brutal, especially at this altitude. The penthouse is on the 42nd floor. The air pressure affects alcohol metabolism. And you should probably eat something too. You didn't have dinner last night, and you drank on an empty stomach. The casual way he says it, like he's commenting on the weather, like this is a normal morning conversation, makes something in her brain snap back online. She finds her voice. It comes out high and sharp and not at all as confident as she wants it to sound. More like a scared animal than a grown woman. "Who are you? Where am I? What the hell is happening right now?" "I'm Jang Uk. You're in my penthouse in Gangnam, 42nd floor of the Hanam Luxury Towers. And what's happening is that you're having a very justified panic attack about the fact that we got married last night." He says it like he's reading a grocery list. Calm, unbothered, completely in control of a situation that's spiraling wildly out of her control. It's a normal reaction. I expected it. Married? Married? Sonia grabs the certificate and waves it at him like maybe he's forgotten it exists. Like maybe if she shows him the paper, he'll realize this is all a huge mistake. "This can't be real. This is insane. This is completely insane. I don't even know you." "You knew me well enough last night." He takes a sip of his coffee, watching her over the rim of the cup with dark eyes that give away absolutely nothing. Eyes that have seen things, done things. Eyes that hold secrets she probably doesn't want to know. Though I'll admit, the soju probably helped lower your inhibitions significantly. Fragments start hitting her then. Not memories exactly, more like shrapnel. Sharp pieces of the night before that cut as they surface. A bar in Itaewon. She remembers that part clearly. The expat district where foreigners go to feel less alone in a foreign country. Neon lights everywhere, painting everything in shades of electric pink and blue and green. Music so loud it made her chest vibrate, made her ears ring, made thinking impossible. Her sitting alone at the counter ordering shot after shot of soju because if she stopped drinking, she'd have to think. Have to feel. Have to process what she'd seen yesterday afternoon. Chidi, her boyfriend of 2 years. The man she'd followed to Seoul when his company transferred him. The man she'd rearranged her entire life for. In their bed. In their apartment. With someone else. Some woman Sonia had never seen before. Someone younger and prettier and clearly more interesting than her. The way he'd looked at her when he finally noticed her standing frozen in the doorway with takeout lunch in her hands. Not guilty. Not sorry. Just annoyed. Like she was interrupting something important. Like she was the problem for coming home during her lunch break. She'd wanted to forget. Needed to forget. Needed to feel anything except the crushing weight of betrayal, the humiliation of being cheated on, the realization that the past 2 years of her life had been built on lies and she'd been too stupid or too trusting or too in love to see it. So she'd gone to that bar alone, ordered soju, kept ordering it, drinking until the edges of the world got fuzzy and soft and the pain in her chest felt like it was happening to someone else. Then this man had sat down next to her. She remembers his voice now, deep and smooth, asking if she was okay. Not trying to pick her up, not immediately, just asking. Like he genuinely wanted to know, like he cared about the answer. She'd told him no, told him about Chidi, told him everything through tears and soju and the kind of raw honesty that only comes when you're drunk enough not to care anymore. He'd bought her another drink, then another. Made her laugh somehow, though she can't remember the jokes. Just remembers the feeling of laughing when she didn't think she'd ever laugh again. They danced. She remembers that. His hand on her waist, warm and solid and real when everything else was spinning out of control. The feeling of being reckless, alive. Like maybe she could be someone completely different for one night. Someone brave. Someone who didn't give a damn about anything. Someone who definitely wasn't the pathetic girl whose boyfriend cheated on her. Oh God. She drops the certificate like it's burned her, like touching it makes this real in a way she can't handle. We actually got married. We actually did it. Legally and officially. Signed, sealed, filed with the Korean government approximately 6 hours ago. He says it so matter-of-factly, like he's confirming a business transaction. Like people get drunk married to strangers every day. The paperwork is in order. Everything was done correctly. 6 hours. Wait, what? She looks up at him and her brain is struggling to process this information, to make it make sense. I don't remember filing anything 6 hours ago. I was unconscious 6 hours ago. I was dead to the world. There's no way I was awake enough to file government paperwork. Jang Uk sets his coffee down on the table with a soft click. He doesn't look guilty exactly. His face is too controlled for that. Too carefully blank. But something shifts in his expression. Something that might be regret if he was the kind of man who allowed himself to feel regret. You were awake, functioning. You showered around 5:30 this morning. Got dressed in clothes I had delivered for you. The staff at the boutique downstairs knows your size from previous purchases, apparently. You came into my study around 6, asking where the coffee was and if I had any aspirin. We talked for about 20 minutes. You seemed coherent. Tired, maybe a little withdrawn, but coherent enough. That's impossible. I don't remember any of that. Not 1 second. Not one single moment. The mind does interesting things when it's protecting itself from trauma, he says, moving to the window and looking out at the city below with his hands in his pockets. His posture is relaxed, but there's tension in his shoulders, in the line of his back. You were destroyed last night, Sonia. Completely broken. I watched you drink yourself numb in that bar. Watched you try to erase your pain with alcohol. You told me you wanted to forget everything. Wanted to wake up as someone new. Someone who didn't have to carry around all that hurt anymore. He pauses, choosing his words carefully, deliberately. Sometimes when we're going through something traumatic, the mind creates distance between what we do and what we remember. It's a protective mechanism. Maybe part of you wanted this, wanted the chaos, wanted something so completely different from your old life that you couldn't go back even if you tried. Maybe drunk you made a decision that sober you wasn't ready to make but needed to make anyway. Sonia wants to argue, wants to scream that he's wrong, that she would never want this. But doubt creeps in like poison, cold and insidious. Had she been functioning this morning? Is it possible? She's done it before after bad nights. Woken up and showered and gone through the motions on autopilot while her brain was still offline, still processing, still protecting her from having to fully feel everything. She's gone to work like that before after particularly bad fights with Chidi, smiled at colleagues, answered emails, appeared completely normal while feeling like she was dying inside, and remembered none of it later. Why me? The question comes out smaller than she intended, more vulnerable. She hates how weak her voice sounds. You could have anyone. You're clearly rich, you're obviously powerful. You could have any woman in Seoul. Why drag some random drunk girl you met in a bar into your world? Why marry me? Jang Uk is quiet for a long moment, just looking at her with those dark, unreadable eyes that seem to see right through her. Then he pulls out his phone from his pocket, taps something on the screen with his thumb, and turns it toward her. Security footage. Black and white. Slightly grainy. A hotel lobby. The timestamp in the corner says it's from 7 months ago, back when she was still living in Lagos, still just visiting Seoul for business. In the video, a man is being aggressive with a hotel employee. He's big, Western, probably American based on his body language. Shouting, waving his arms angrily. The employee behind the desk is young, female, Korean. She looks terrified, on the verge of tears, backing away like she wants to run but can't because it's her job to stay there and take it. Everyone else in the lobby is looking away, pretending not to notice, keeping their heads down because it's not their problem. Then another woman walks into frame. She's smaller than the angry man. Clearly foreign too, probably African based on her features. Obviously alone. She's wearing business clothes and pulling a suitcase. She should keep walking. Should mind her own business. Should not get involved in a situation that has nothing to do with her. But she doesn't. She steps between the angry man and the terrified employee without any hesitation. Even without sound, her body language is crystal clear. Back off. Leave her alone. Right now. The woman is Sonia. She watches herself on that grainy security footage and the memory comes flooding back. She'd been checking into the Riverside Hotel for her first business trip to Seoul. Nervous about being in a foreign country alone for 3 days, not speaking the language well, not knowing the culture, terrified of making mistakes. Some Western tourist, Australian she remembers now, had been screaming at the young woman behind the desk over a billing error, getting more and more aggressive. Everyone in the lobby had been looking away like it wasn't happening. So she'd stepped in, heart pounding, hands shaking, absolutely terrified. But someone had to do something. That's the Riverside Hotel, Jang Uk says quietly, his voice almost gentle now. I own it, along with about 40 other hotels in Seoul. I was there that day for a quarterly meeting with the management team when I saw you defend my employee from that drunk businessman. He pockets the phone and looks at her with an intensity that makes her breath catch. You didn't know who owned the hotel. Didn't know anyone was watching. Didn't know that there were cameras recording everything. You just saw someone being hurt and you decided to do something about it. Even though it wasn't your problem. Even though you were in a foreign country where you barely spoke the language. Even though getting involved could have caused problems for you. Most people would have looked away, he continues, watching her face carefully. Especially in a foreign country where they don't understand the culture, where they don't know the social rules, where standing out could make their business trip more complicated. But you didn't. You put yourself between her and danger without even thinking about the cost, without calculating the risk. You just did what was right. Sonia stares at him, her mind reeling. That still doesn't explain why you married me. That explains why you noticed me. It doesn't explain this. She holds up her left hand, the platinum ring catching the morning light. Jang Uk walks closer, and she notices for the first time that he moves like someone who's dangerous. Not threatening exactly. Just capable. Like violence is an option he's comfortable with if it becomes necessary. After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about you. He says it simply, like he's stating a fact. The fire in your eyes when you stood up to that man. The way you didn't back down even when you were clearly scared. I could see your hands shaking, but you didn't move. The courage it took to do what you did. I wanted to know if that was real or just a momentary impulse, a one-time thing. He pauses, and something flickers across his face, something that might be guilt. So I had my people find out who you were. Basic information, nothing invasive at first. Sonia Adeyemi, 26 years old, Nigerian fashion buyer from Lagos. In Seoul for a 3-day trade show representing a boutique African fashion company trying to break into the Korean market. You had meetings scheduled at various companies, hotel reservations at properties I own, a flight home booked for 72 hours later. Her skin crawls like insects are walking across it. You had people research me? You had people following me? I wanted to know who you were, if that courage I saw was part of your character or just an anomaly. He doesn't apologize, doesn't look ashamed, just states it like it's the most natural thing in the world. I own half the hotels and restaurants in Gangnam. About 40% of the luxury establishments in Seoul operate under my protection or ownership. Every time you dined somewhere, used a car service, checked into a hotel, reports came to me. It's standard business practice. I tell myself it's about quality control, making sure my establishments are treating international guests appropriately. He takes a sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving her face. But really, I just wanted to know about you. My managers would mention you in their weekly reports. The Nigerian woman in room 1504. The foreign businesswoman who came in for lunch. Always working on your laptop. Always alone. Always professional and polite to the staff, even when there were language barriers. I started pulling up the security feeds sometimes, just to watch you. See you typing away on your computer in hotel lobbies. See you on video calls with people back home. Your mother, I think, based on how you smiled when you talked to her. Sonia feels violated, exposed. Like every private moment from the past 7 months has been watched, recorded, analyzed. That's not romantic. That's stalking. That's creepy and invasive and... Yes. Jang Uk agrees simply, cutting her off. It is all of those things. I'm not claiming otherwise. I'm not trying to make it sound better than it is. I'm a lot of things, Sonia, but I'm not a liar. Not about important things. He sets his coffee down and faces her fully. I saw something in you that I haven't seen in anyone in years. Maybe ever. Real courage. The kind that comes from the inside, not from training or necessity. You chose to be brave when it would have been safer to walk away. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop thinking about you. He moves closer to the window, and the morning light catches the scar on his eyebrow. When you left Seoul after that first trip, I thought that was it. I'd never see you again. You'd go back to Lagos, and that would be the end of the most interesting thing that had happened to me in years. I was actually disappointed, which was unusual. I don't get disappointed about things. I usually just make things happen the way I want them to. Then, 3 months later, he continues, and there's something in his voice now that she can't quite identify. A report crossed my desk during a routine weekly briefing. Sonia Adeyemi had signed a 2-year lease on an apartment in Gangnam, work visa approved by the Korean government, relocated to Seoul permanently to head up her company's expansion into the Korean market. He looks at her, and there's heat in his gaze now. Intensity. I don't believe in fate. Don't believe in destiny or divine intervention or any of that romantic nonsense. But that felt close. Felt like maybe the universe was giving me a second chance at something I thought I'd lost. So you had people monitor me. Sonia says flatly, her voice hard. You watched me, tracked me, stalked me for months. Yes. He doesn't deny it, doesn't try to soften it. The restaurants you ate at, the shops you visited, the routes you took to work, the friends you made, the dates you went on. All of it. Every single day for 4 months. Not constantly, I'm not that obsessive, but regular check-ins, making sure you were safe, making sure my establishments were treating you well, telling myself it was about business, about protecting an asset in my territory. His jaw tightens. The truth? I was interested, fascinated, maybe a little obsessed. When I want something, when something catches my attention, I pay very close attention to it. And you caught my attention in a way nothing has in years. That's not romantic, Sonia says, and her voice shakes despite her best effort to keep it steady. She's angry now, truly angry. The fear temporarily overridden by rage at being watched, monitored, treated like an object of study. That's obsessive. That's terrifying. That's the behavior of someone who isn't a good man. Jang Uk finishes for her. I know. I've never pretended to be a good man, Sonia. I've done things that would horrify you. Made choices that keep me awake at 3 a.m. Hurt people who probably didn't deserve it. I run a criminal organization. I traffic in information and violence and fear. I'm not the hero of this story. He meets her eyes directly, and his gaze is unflinching. But I'm honest about what I want. I don't lie to myself or to other people about who I am or what I'm capable of. And I wanted you. From the moment I saw you stand up to that man in my hotel, I wanted to know you. And when you moved to Seoul permanently, I thought maybe I'd have the chance. So you got me drunk and married me? Her voice is rising now, anger overtaking fear, rage burning away the shock. You saw a broken, heartbroken woman in a bar falling apart and you took advantage of her? You manipulated her into marrying you? His jaw tightens, and for the first time she sees real emotion flicker across his face. Something that might be anger, or might be hurt, or might be regret. I didn't plan that. When I saw you in that bar last night, sitting alone and crying, destroying yourself with alcohol, I should have walked away. Should have let you grieve your relationship in peace. Let you go home to your apartment and cry it out and wake up tomorrow and start putting yourself back together. He runs a hand through his hair, messing up the careful styling. But I couldn't. I sat down next to you, and for the first time in God knows how long, I had a conversation where I wasn't Jang Uk, head of the Seoul collective. Wasn't the man everyone fears. Wasn't calculating angles or thinking about leverage or planning 3 moves ahead. I was just a man talking to a woman who made him feel something other than empty. He moves closer and she can see the tension in every line of his body. And the marriage was your idea, Sonia. Not mine. I didn't suggest it. Didn't manipulate you into it. You were 7 shots of soju deep crying about your ex-boyfriend Chidi, about how he'd cheated on you after 2 years, about how you'd moved your entire life to Seoul for him and he'd repaid you by sleeping with someone else in your bed. Sonia's face burns because she can hear herself saying those exact words, can feel the alcohol-fueled rage and hurt that would have driven them. You said you wanted to do something crazy. Jang Uk continues, and his voice has gone quieter now, more intense. Something that would make him realize what he'd lost. Something that would prove you weren't the pathetic, heartbroken girl crying alone in a bar. Something that would burn your old life down so completely you couldn't go back even if you tried. He's close enough now that she can smell his cologne. Something expensive and subtle. I told you that sounded like drunk talk. Told you maybe you should sleep on that decision and see how you felt in the morning when you were sober. You laughed in my face. Called me a coward. Said you'd never felt more sure of anything in your entire life. Said you wanted to get married. To me. A complete stranger. Right then. That very night. The memory is trying to surface through the fog of her hangover, through the protective blanket her brain has wrapped around last night. She can almost feel it. The reckless certainty. The desire to do something so insane that Chidi would hear about it and realize he'd lost someone extraordinary. Someone brave enough to marry a stranger. I should have said no, Jang Uk says, and now there is regret in his voice, clear and unmistakable. Should have put you in a taxi and sent you home and forgotten I'd ever met you. That would have been the right thing to do. The decent thing. The thing a good man would have done. He pauses. But I'm not a good man. And I didn't want to let you go. So I took you to a 24-hour registration office that handles emergency marriages. And you signed the papers with a smile on your face. Answered all the questions correctly. Seemed completely coherent and willing and sure of what you were doing. And then you kissed me like I was the answer to every question you'd ever had. Like I was salvation, instead of damnation. The memory surfaces fully now, sharp and sudden. his lips on hers. The taste of soju and something darker, something dangerous. His hands on her waist, solid and real and warm. The feeling that she was burning her old life to the ground with both hands and she didn't even care. The reckless joy of doing something completely insane. Of feeling more alive in that moment than she'd felt in months with Chidi. Before she can respond, before she can figure out what to say to any of that, Jang Uk's phone buzzes loudly in his pocket. The sound cuts through the tension in the room like a gunshot. His entire demeanor changes in an instant. Every muscle in his body goes rigid. His expression shifts from something almost vulnerable to absolutely lethal in the span of a single heartbeat. The transformation is so complete, so immediate, that it's like watching a mask slot into place. "We have a problem," he says, and his voice has gone cold as winter, hard as steel. All traces of the man who was just confessing his obsession are gone. This is someone else. Someone dangerous. He turns the phone toward her and Sonia's blood turns to ice in her veins. The image on the screen is a photo. Her and Jang Uk leaving the registration office last night. She's laughing in the photo, her head thrown back, leaning heavily into him. His arm is wrapped around her waist, holding her up. They look like any happy newlywed couple stumbling out into the night, drunk on love and soju and the recklessness of youth. But someone has edited the photo, drew on it, added something that makes her stomach drop. A red target over her face. Bright red circles, crosshairs centered precisely between her eyes. The kind of target you see in movies before someone gets shot. Below the image, a message in English. The collective's new bride. Pretty. Fragile. Easy to break. Who sent this? She can barely get the words out past the sudden fear constricting her throat. The Black Lotus Syndicate. Jang Uk's voice is completely flat now. Emotionless. The voice of someone who's seen violence up close and isn't afraid of it. They're a rival organization. Have been for about 2 years now. His thumb moves across the screen, pulling up more messages. Each one makes her stomach drop further. More photos. Her at a restaurant she'd been to 3 days ago with a colleague. Leaving her apartment building last Tuesday morning, coffee in hand, completely unaware. Shopping in Myeongdong over the weekend, bags in both hands, smiling at something on her phone. Someone had been following her, documenting her movements, watching her every day for who knows how long. They're a Chinese-Korean operation trying to move into Seoul, Jang Uk explains, and his voice has gone completely clinical now. Professional, like he's briefing someone on a business problem, not discussing threats to her life. They've been testing my defenses for 18 months, looking for weaknesses, trying to find leverage they can use against me. Sonia's voice comes out hollow, empty of emotion because she's gone past fear into some weird state of shock. And I'm a weakness. You're my wife, Jang Uk corrects, and suddenly there's fierce emotion in his voice again. Heat, anger, protection. Which makes you both a target and a protected asset. They'll use you to get to me if they can. Kidnapping for ransom. Hostage situation to force me to back down from territory disputes. Or worse, they might just kill you to send a message that no one is untouchable, that even I can't protect the people I care about. The room starts spinning, not from the hangover this time. From the dawning realization that her life just went from complicated to genuinely dangerous in the span of 12 hours. Sonia sits down hard on the nearest chair because her legs suddenly can't hold her weight anymore. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. 24 hours ago, my biggest problem was a cheating boyfriend. Now I'm married to someone in the Korean mafia, and there are people who want to kidnap or kill me to get to him? This can't be real. This can't actually be happening. Jang Uk crouches down in front of her, moving smoothly, gracefully. His hands grip the arms of the chair on either side of her, caging her in but not touching her. Not threatening, just present. His eyes are level with hers now, and she can see the flecks of amber in the dark brown. I know, he says quietly, and there's genuine regret in his voice. Real emotion. And I'm sorry. If I could go back to last night and make different choices, I would. I'd put you in a taxi and send you home and never see you again. That would be the right thing to do. He pauses, his gaze intense and unwavering. But we're here now, and those men know you exist, know you're connected to me, know that you matter to me. The marriage certificate is public record. The photos are out there. They've already started watching you, already started planning. Divorcing you won't change that. He continues, and his voice is gentle but firm, like he's explaining something to a child who doesn't understand the rules yet. They'll assume it's a trick, a ploy to make them think you're not valuable anymore. Or they'll use you anyway just to send a message, just to prove they can get to the people I care about. Either way, you're in danger now. The only question is whether you face that danger with my protection or without it. So what do I do? Her voice is small, scared, nothing like the confident woman who stood up to an angry tourist 7 months ago in a hotel lobby. How do I live like this? His eyes hold hers with an intensity that makes it hard to breathe. You stay close to me. You let Huang and my other men protect you. You follow the rules I'm about to give you without question, without argument, without thinking you know better. And you trust that I will burn this entire city to the ground, will sacrifice everything I've built, before I let anyone touch a single hair on your head. The intensity in his voice should terrify her, should send her running for the door. But underneath the fear that's making her hands shake and her heart race, something else stirs. Something that recognizes the absolute certainty in his words. The promise that isn't empty or performative or meant to manipulate. Because despite everything, despite the stalking and the drunken marriage and the danger and the insanity of this entire situation, Jang Uk's protection feels real, feels solid, like a wall of steel between her and the world that wants to hurt her. I need air, Sonia says abruptly, standing up and nearly knocking into him in her haste to move, to do something, to not sit still with this information. I need to think. I need space to process this because I can't breathe in here right now. The balcony, Jang Uk says, rising smoothly with her, matching her movement. But stay away from the railing, at least 3 feet back. I have snipers positioned on the neighboring buildings for security purposes. But they might too. They might already be watching this building, watching for you to appear somewhere vulnerable. She freezes with her hand halfway to the balcony door, her entire body going rigid. Snipers? You have actual snipers? On buildings? You're seriously not joking right now? I never joke about security. Instead of the balcony, they move to his office. He guides her with a hand that doesn't quite touch her back, just hovers there. Protective but not controlling. The office is exactly what she'd expect from someone like him. Dark wood panels on the walls that probably he poured them both whiskey, despite the fact that it wasn't even noon yet, handing her a crystal tumbler that felt heavy and expensive in her hand. She took a sip and nearly choked. It was smoother than anything she'd ever tasted, going down like silk and fire at the same time. Probably cost more per bottle than she made in a month. The Seoul Collective isn't like what you see in movies, Jang Uk began, leaning back against his desk with his own glass in hand. We're not running drugs on street corners or trafficking people or any of that stereotypical mafia nonsense. We control information networks, provide protection services, and run legitimate businesses with underground components that make them more profitable. He gestured broadly with his free hand. Hotels, restaurants, tech companies, real estate. About 65% of what we do is completely legal. The other 35% operates in gray areas that the law chooses not to see because everyone benefits from us being there. We're the shadow government of Seoul's business district. When something needs to happen quietly and efficiently, when the official channels are too slow or too public, people come to us. And the Black Lotus? Sonia asked quietly, her voice steadier now. They want what you have? Territory, connections, respect, money, all of it. He took a sip of his whiskey. They've been pushing into Seoul for 18 months now, trying to establish themselves through violence and intimidation. We've managed to contain them so far, keep them confined to certain areas. But they're getting desperate. And desperate organizations do stupid, reckless things. Like kidnapping someone's wife, she said softly. Exactly like kidnapping someone's wife. Jang Uk leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his expression deadly serious. Which is why I need you to understand the rules of this world we're in now. Are you listening? She nodded, her throat too tight to speak. First rule, you don't go anywhere without Huang or another one of my approved guards. Not to the corner store, not to get coffee, nowhere. Second rule, you don't trust anyone I haven't personally vetted. I don't care if they seem nice or harmless. You trust no one. Third rule, you don't discuss my business with anyone. Ever. Not your friends, not your family back home. No one. His eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her shiver. And fourth rule, the most important one. If something happens, if you're ever in danger, if anything feels wrong, you run. You don't try to be brave like you were at that hotel. You don't try to stand your ground. You just run as fast as you can and let my men handle it. Do you understand me? I'm not good at running, Sonia said softly, almost to herself. I'm not good at letting other people fight my battles. I know, Jang Uk said, and something flickered across his face that might have been worry, might have been fear. I saw the security footage, remember? I know exactly what kind of person you are. And that's what worries me. That's what's going to keep me up at night. Because the Black Lotus won't care about your courage. They'll use it against you. His phone buzzed again, loud and insistent in the quiet office. He glanced at the screen and his expression went from serious to absolutely murderous. He stood up abruptly, already moving toward the door with the controlled urgency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't leave this room for any reason. What's happening? Sonia stood up too, fear spiking through her again. They just grabbed one of my underbosses off the street in broad daylight. This is the opening move. This is them declaring war. His hand was already on the doorknob. He paused, looking back at her with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. Lock this door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Huang. Not for deliveries, not for hotel staff, not for anyone who claims to be from me. Only Huang. Do you understand? She nodded, her heart hammering. Be careful. Something flickered in his eyes then. Surprise, maybe. Wonder. Like he wasn't used to anyone worrying about whether he came back. Like no one had told him to be careful in years, maybe ever. I always am, he said quietly. Then he was gone. The door closed and she heard the lock click from the outside. Electronic, not mechanical. She was trapped again, locked in like a prisoner. But this time it felt different. This time it didn't feel like imprisonment. It felt like protection. Sonia moved to the window, looking out at Seoul's skyline stretching out in every direction. Somewhere out there, a war was starting. A war over territory and power and respect. And somehow, impossibly, she was at the center of it all. The newest piece on a game board she didn't understand, playing a game with rules she'd never learned. Her phone buzzed in her hand, making her jump. A text from an unknown number. Pretty penthouse. Beautiful view. Shame if something happened to it. Or to you. Her hands shook as she screenshot the message, her heart racing. She should be terrified. Should be curled up in a ball crying. Should be falling apart completely. But instead, something else rose up inside her. Hot and fierce and unexpected. Anger. These people thought she was weak. Thought she was easy. Thought she was fragile. Thought marrying Jang Uk made her a target instead of a threat. Prey instead of a predator. They thought they could scare her with messages and photos and implied violence. They were about to learn how wrong they were. She pulled up Huang's contact, which had apparently been added to her phone without her knowledge or permission, and forwarded the screenshot. His response was immediate. On my way to you now. Don't open door for anyone else. Loading weapon. 30 seconds later, exactly 30 seconds by the clock on the wall, there was a knock on the door. 3 short raps, a pause, 2 more raps. Some kind of code. Mrs. Jang, it's Hwang. Sonia unlocked the door and pulled it open. The giant man stepped inside, and she could see now that he was wearing a shoulder holster with a gun that looked like it could stop a car. His expression was darker than she'd seen before, more dangerous, like a storm about to break. He looked at her phone, then at her face, studying her carefully. You're not scared. I'm terrified, she corrected honestly. But I'm also angry. They're threatening me to get to him. They're using me as a weapon against someone I barely know but who's trying to protect me anyway. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Something shifted in Hwang's expression. It might have been approval. It might have been respect. Boss chose well. I didn't give him much choice. He kind of married me while I was drunk. No, Hwang agreed, and the corner of his mouth might have twitched. Might have been a smile. But you're choosing now. To stay. To fight. To be part of this family instead of running away. That's different. That's what matters. Was she choosing that? Was she really choosing to stay in this insane, dangerous situation instead of finding a way out? Sonia looked down at the wedding ring she hadn't really paid attention to before. Simple platinum band. Elegant and understated. Nothing flashy or ostentatious. It fit her finger perfectly, like it had been made for her. When had he put this on her finger? Last night at the registration office, probably. During one of the many moments she couldn't remember, couldn't access through the fog of soju and heartbreak and reckless decisions. She twisted the ring slowly, feeling its weight. 24 hours ago, she'd been Sonia Adeyemi, heartbroken fashion buyer trying to pick up the pieces of her shattered relationship. Ordinary, normal, safe. Now she was Sonia Jang, wife of Seoul's most dangerous man, target of a rival criminal organization, protected by armed guards and living in a penthouse that probably cost more per month than she made in a year. And somehow, against all logic and reason and common sense, she was exactly where she needed to be. Tell Jang Uk to be careful, she said quietly, meeting Hwang's eyes. Tell him his wife expects him home for dinner. Hwang actually smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face. Yes, ma'am. 3 hours crawled by like 3 days. Sonia paced the study until she'd worn an actual path in the expensive Persian rug. She tried to work on her laptop but couldn't focus on anything except the clock on the wall. Tried to eat the food Hwang brought her, but her stomach was twisted into knots too tight to accept anything. Every minute felt like an hour. Every sound made her jump. Every notification on her phone made her heart race. Then she heard it. The distinctive electronic beep of the penthouse door unlocking. Footsteps in the hallway. Multiple sets of footsteps, heavy and urgent. Sonia ran into the living room before Hwang could stop her, before she could think about whether it was safe or smart. Jang Uk stood in the doorway and her heart nearly stopped. His white shirt was torn almost completely in half, hanging off one shoulder. Blood stained the fabric, dark and spreading. There was a cut above his eyebrow still bleeding, running down the side of his face. His knuckles were bruised and split open, raw and angry. He looked like he'd been through a war. But he was alive. He was standing. He was home. You're hurt, she said, and she was already moving toward him without thinking about it, without questioning it. It's nothing, he said, but his voice was rough and he swayed slightly on his feet. Pain flickered across his face before he could hide it. She didn't think, didn't analyze or question or hesitate, just moved on pure instinct. She slipped under his arm, taking as much of his weight as she could despite the significant size difference, her arm wrapping around his waist. Come on, let's get you cleaned up before you bleed all over your expensive floors. Jang Uk let her guide him to the couch, not resisting, not protesting. There was something like wonder in his expression as he looked down at her, like he couldn't quite believe what was happening. "You're still here," he said quietly, and there was something raw in his voice. "Where else would I be?" She grabbed the first aid kit that Huang handed her without a word. Running. Most people would be running as fast as they could in the opposite direction. She started cleaning the cut on his forehead with steady hands, more steady than she'd expected. "I'm not most people. You should probably know that by now." "I'm beginning to," he murmured, his eyes never leaving her face. She worked in silence for a few minutes, focused on cleaning his wounds with careful precision. The cut on his forehead wasn't deep, but it had bled a lot, as head wounds always did. She cleaned it with antiseptic, and he winced but didn't pull away, didn't complain. His knuckles were worse, torn up like he'd been punching concrete. Or faces. Probably faces. She didn't ask, just cleaned each one carefully, wrapping them in gauze when she was finished. When she was done, when she'd tended to every visible injury, Jang Uk caught her wrist gently with his bandaged hand, made her look at him instead of his wounds. "This life isn't going to get easier," he said quietly, seriously. "The danger won't disappear just because we want it to. There will be more threats, more violence, more nights like this where I come home bleeding and you have to patch me up. I can't promise you safety or normalcy or any of the things a husband should be able to promise his wife." "Then what can you promise me?" Her voice was steady, her eyes locked on his. His eyes held hers, dark and intense and completely, brutally honest. No games, no manipulation, just truth. That I will fight for you with everything I have. That you'll never face this world alone as long as I'm breathing. That every single day you choose to stay, I'll give you a reason not to regret it. That's all I can promise. But I'll keep that promise until the day I die. It wasn't poetry. Wasn't some perfect romantic speech from a movie. There were no flowery words or grand gestures, but it was real, raw, true in a way that made her chest ache. Sonia leaned forward and kissed him. Not like the drunken kisses she couldn't remember from last night, the ones lost in a fog of soju and heartbreak. This was clear-headed, deliberate, a choice made with full knowledge and awareness of exactly what it meant. She was choosing him, choosing this dangerous, impossible, insane new life, choosing to stay instead of run, choosing to fight instead of hide. When she pulled back, Jang Uk looked at her like she'd just given him something infinitely precious, something he'd never expected to have. Then he pulled her back in for another kiss, more passionate this time, more desperate. His hand cupped the back of her neck, his fingers tangling in her hair. Her fingers were careful around his injuries as they gripped his shoulders, holding on like he might disappear if she let go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, both slightly dazed, she said, "I'm still angry about the stalking thing, and the trapped in Seoul thing, and the fact that you let me marry you while I was drunk off my ass." "Noted," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "But I'm choosing to stay. Not because I'm trapped or because I don't have options, but because maybe, just maybe, drunk me knew something that sober me was too scared to admit." "And what's that?" His thumb traced patterns on the back of her neck, gentle and soothing. "That safe choices already broke my heart once. That doing everything right and being careful and making all the reasonable decisions got me nothing but betrayal and pain. Maybe it's time to try something dangerous. Maybe it's time to stop being careful." Jang Uk pulled her closer, wincing slightly at his injuries but refusing to let go. "Dangerous I can definitely do." "Good," she said, settling against him with her head on his shoulder, fitting against him like maybe she'd been made to be there. "Because I have a feeling we're going to need dangerous for whatever comes next." Outside the penthouse windows, Seoul glittered in the afternoon sun, beautiful and dangerous and full of infinite possibilities. Inside, two people who should never have met, should never have married, definitely should never have fallen for each other, held on tight and prepared for whatever war was coming. Because sometimes the wrong night, the worst decision, the most reckless choice leads to exactly the right forever. Even if that forever comes with armed bodyguards, death threats, and a husband who runs the Korean mafia. Even if that forever starts with a hangover and a marriage certificate and no memory of saying, I do. So what do you think? Would you have run the first chance you got? Or would you have stayed and fought for this dangerous love? Drop your answer in the comments below and let me know. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories that'll keep you up at night wondering, what if? Smash that like button if Sonia and Jang Uk's story hooked you from that very first morning after. Trust me, their story is just beginning. And you won't want to miss what happens when the Black Lotus makes their next move. Because this war, it's only getting started.